Some of the things that I do and some of the groups I'm working with are the Network of African Medical Librarians, who, as I mentioned earlier, are creating an electronic institutional repositories at their universities. And this is something where I hope that they can interface with you very, very clearly, very obviously. I work with a group of students in Africa. We have a small Students Innovation Lab. And I'm working with the Fogarty Center and at NIH. And part of my remit at Fogarty is AJPP, along with Nalini Anand and Rachel Stirk, whom you will meet, whom you've probably already met and you'll hear from tomorrow. Also on the remit is working with Mepi. Now I realize not everyone in the room is part of the Mepi program, but I'll just go through it kind of quickly because it is very innovative and it's really pretty wonderful. Mepi stands for Medical Education Partnership Initiative. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about how that works. In the US, money comes from the US government and Congress, right? To the State Department. Everybody's heard of the State Department? To the Office of the Global AIDS Coordinator. This was actually an office that the predecessor was set up during the George Bush administration. Under that office are a number of programs, including PEPFAR, the President's Initiative to fight AIDS in Africa. It's the President's Emergency Plan to fight AIDS in Africa. Under PEPFAR, this is going to stop soon, is Mepi. So you see, there's a long train. I mean, this is a big bureaucracy. However, it's also very big money. This is an effort by the US government to strengthen medical education in Africa, and thereby strengthen the health system and to decrease morbidity and mortality. Now, Anna has asked me to name the countries that are involved in Mepi, and to make sure, I feel like I'm in a spelling bee now, so I wrote them down, I cheated. But a number of you are involved. Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Mozambique, Malawi, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, 2 in South Africa, Ghana, of course, and Nigeria. And each one is very different. It is big, this project. Like the government, it can be bureaucratic, but it is important and it's unprecedented. This is a multi-million-dollar infusion of funds into the improvement of health in Africa. It is driven by the African PIs. It is not driven by their American partners. And the point is to decrease the morbidity and mortality through strengthening medical education and consequent strengthening of health systems. One of my former students in Uganda, who's now a medical doctor, and his name is Matthias, and he wrote me this. Dear Julia, hope all is well, long time. I'm now working at a government health facility called Buwambo Health Center 4, a remote place in Wakiso district. There are enormous challenges here, ranging from diagnostics, medical supplies, staff motivation, non-operating maternity theater, lack of medical equipment, dormant adolescent clinic. The list is endless. We are only 2 medical officers serving the entire health subdistrict of about 300,000 people, and we give support supervision to 14 lower peripheral health units. What is hurting is after making a diagnosis, you do not have medicine to treat, and sometimes you have a provisional diagnosis, but you cannot investigate the patient due to lack of diagnostics. Now here comes the big point. Nevertheless, I love this community because it has lots of public health concerns that need to be addressed. I'm designing a health services quality improvement program. Maybe it will help. It will start with an HIV/TB quality improvement program. Kind regards, Matthias. Now, I'm sharing that with you in the context of Mepi because that is the outcome. That's where we want to be. And that's how all of us can help those students, as James has spoken of some of these young people, get to the point where they're interested in going into the remote areas, carrying out research there, treating patients there, and then writing about it in your journals. So I think that's where we want to be. I sort of started at the end of the story. Now, how can you help? If you have a Mepi PI, be proactive. Go to that person. Don't wait for them to come to you. They're overloaded, overcommitted, over everything. You go and ask how you can promote the research or the reports that they're putting out. Maybe you want to do a small supplement. Maybe it's a regular column. Maybe it's a student column. I mean, who knows? But I think there's some really unique things that this group can do to capture the importance of this project. The focus is really on the future. And I often have to say this, because the power is here, the vision is here, the leadership is here. So you have to let the world hear that. Now, just to reread this last line again. Nevertheless, I love this community because it has lots of public health concerns that need to be addressed. Now, there are people in the room right now who have some experience with Mepi. I know some of the librarians have, Grace has, Christine has, also James certainly has, Abraham has, Chiwaza, there's the Mepi project there, I don't know that you're working with it. Please, if you have some things, specific things that you'd like to add about how you've worked with Mepi or how you would like to work with Mepi, or how maybe you can help some of the folks who are not in Mepi countries get engaged, speak up.
Work begins at 8 in Uganda. At 7 o'clock exactly, up to 8 o'clock, we have the Writers Club. That's the Medical Students Writers Club, sitting in one of the boardrooms. And we have, in Kiswahili, what we call baraza. It's a dialogue. So we dialogue on research and writing. And the guys who have gone through that experience almost invariably win the grants because they are Mepi grants for research. So the students write and compete for them. And invariably people who belong to that club, who chat about research, then win the grants. They are small grants, but they are good catalysts. And from the evaluation we've been doing, the students love this activity very much.
Well, our experience with Mepi, like you are saying, Mepi is so much money within Mepi. They're huge grants, and also they have what they call supplementary grants. I think every year you can apply for a supplementary grant. But within the University of Zambia School of Medicine, there's now a formalized course in the research methodology course of the postgraduate students, where students are taught PubMed, effective searching, citations, and we are fortunate that we have someone who, among the lecturers who came, I think, as a spouse. So in order to pass time, he was able to assist, I think that's Dr. Andrews from Vanderbilt. He's also working on the Mepi. But also being able to, they did publish a supplement of, is it a supplement, the whole issue of the Zambia Medical Journal, some years back, or maybe 2 years ago or a year ago. Yes, it was a special issue that is 2 years ago, where we concentrated on the research output that was coming out of dissertations for master's students, and they had to go through the training of how to turn their dissertations into manuscript format, and then we came with, I think there were 2 special issues because there were so many articles that came out. Thank you.
At the University of Ibadan in Nigeria, we have the Mepi, and they have organized several training workshops for academic staff and students. For the faculty, the workshop has to do with how to write grant applications. It has to do with how to write scholarly articles. At the end of it all, there was funding provided for them to research funds available for people to apply and then get going. They call it re-entry grants. Thank you.
There is Mepi Ethiopia with Addis Ababa University. It doesn't involve Juma University. It involves 4 other medical schools. We have 26 medical schools in Ethiopia, and it involves only 4 medical schools. So we have nothing together with Mepi winning medical schools.
Can someone, say Abraham, where they do not have a Mepi PI, can they work with another country PI is a Mepi participant?
I think that's a great question, and I was thinking about maybe that could be happening. I mean, it's certainly something I can take back as a possibility, because some of these, each program is different. In some countries, there might be 30 institutions in country that are working together on Mepi. In another country, it might be 2. So it's really different everywhere. But I would think if a country was so inclined, they could work with a neighbor who didn't have a Mepi grant in some small way. It doesn't mean that the cash starts flowing across the borders, because people are really guarding those funds. But it does mean that there could be more sharing. And who knows, maybe this group can be an engine for that.
Suppose you're in a country that has a Mepi grant. Is there a formal process, or is it hello, I'm Tom Gale, I'm interested in doing something? Is there a formal proposal that needs to be written?
Well, it's different in every country. And the way this money gets to the 13, it was competed. And there was there's another thing down here, which is NIH, and the money was funneled through NIH and HRSA, another US government agency, and the Scientific Review Committee was at the Fogarty International Center, and the ultimate decisions were made there. However,
I was a scientific review officer.
great. So after the money gets through all that and it gets to the country, then people do different things. Like James talking about Nelson Sewankambo in Uganda is making it possible for these younger students to do small research projects by making small bits of money available. But this project, it's not driven from here. It's driven by the African scientists on the ground. So it depends on what the proposal was. And you can find out, maybe what I'll do is I'll send you all the URL to those sites, and you can read through, see what they're doing, and go from there. That's really the best way, because they're all different.